Hi everyone and welcome to this video, the last in this series on comparative modes. I will be coming back to the comparative at a later stage and looking at sample answers and in-depth examples, but for now this last video will focus on the final mode, General Viewpoint and Vision, and what that mode asks you to do. Don't forget to download your free notes grid to accompany this video from the link in the description underneath. In this mode, you're being asked about the outlook that the text offers us and how we as readers or viewers respond and engage with that outlook. So there are 2 points here, what the writer is doing, but also how you are responding to what they have done. I'm going to explain this mode through 2 examples. Think for a moment of the Harry Potter books and why they've been so popular. The author has created a world where a boy who, to all intents and purposes, is an orphan living in an abusive home, but he realizes that he is in fact special and unique, and through that uniqueness he finds a stand-in family that love him and offer him support and guidance, and they help him to achieve incredible things. The vision and viewpoint of these books is in fact incredibly positive and optimistic. Even though there are moments of peril or danger, the central character, Harry, always wins out. The reader response to this vision or viewpoint on life has been phenomenal. Millions of people have read the Harry Potter books. There is something in the author's vision of the world that readers love or have a very strong response to. But if the author had written about a boy with no parents who grew up in an abusive home and he wasn't a wizard or didn't have any special powers, and instead, unfortunately, went down the path that many children who suffer trauma in their early years do, I'm not sure the books would have had the same response from readers and the same success. So what is it then? Well, the author offers us a view of the world. In the case of Harry Potter, a very optimistic and fantastical one. Readers have responded to it positively, perhaps because our world isn't really like that, and the books offer them some escapism, or perhaps because readers love to see the underdog succeed. A boy who has almost nothing going for him realizes he's the savior of the world. There are other texts that offer very different visions and viewpoints, but that is only half of the equation. You must always consider the reader's response, your response. So regardless of how the question is worded, there are 2 keys to general viewpoint and vision: what the writer is doing and how you, as the reader, respond to it. In simple terms then, the general viewpoint and vision of a text is the outlook on life offered to the reader. To help identify the general viewpoint and vision of a text, you could ask yourself the following questions to help identify the general viewpoint and vision of a text. Is the text positive or negative? What sort of view does it offer on society, people, or systems? Does it change or develop through the text? How does it end? Is there a resolution in the viewpoint? What is the reader left with? As you can see with this notes grid, you should track or monitor the development of the viewpoint throughout each of the 3 texts you are studying to get an overall view of them. Then you can identify 3 or 4 key moments that you could talk about where the viewpoint or vision is made clear. Always examine the beginning and the ends of texts, as this is where an author, playwright, or director will be working hard to establish the outlook and bring the vision to a conclusion at its end. Let's take a look at another example. Many of you will have studied the novel 1984 for your comparative. If you haven't, the novel is about a character called Winston who lives in a dystopian world. People are under constant surveillance by Big Brother and the party. These are the people in charge of the country. Winston does not like the party, although he works for them. He begins a relationship with a woman called Julia, even though it's not allowed, and together they begin to meet other people who they think also want to overthrow the party. They are betrayed and Winston is captured. He is tortured until he is broken inside and he gives in to the party. If we look at the general viewpoint and vision in this novel, we see that it is very pessimistic. Everything in the novel contributes to this viewpoint. The streets are dirty, apartments and workplaces are noisy and they smell bad, and even the food is described as grey. The characters are miserable, and even at the very beginning, Winston begins by saying that he expects to die, he expects to be killed. There are, however, some moments in the text when the viewpoint shifts and we see some optimism, some positivity. These moments center around the character's hopes that a different way of life is possible, that a rebellion might be coming. The viewpoint of the text changes and shifts. If you haven't got to the end of the text, I'm giving you a spoiler alert here, the end is miserable. Winston gives in when he is tortured, he gives up on love, or he gives up on a vision of a different future, and it reinforces the pessimism that we find throughout the text from the very beginning. While in Harry Potter, there are moments where the viewpoint on life is pessimistic and negative. Harry living in an abusive home, for example. Overall, it is positive because he escapes that life and becomes something greater. In 1984, Winston doesn't succeed against the odds. In fact, The system brutally puts him in his place, and he accepts it at the end as it has broken him, so the overall vision and viewpoint is very dark and pessimistic. Readers will respond to these texts in different ways, depending on their own experiences of life. Some readers of Harry Potter find the books too simplistic and fanciful. There's no real depth to them. We all know what's going to happen anyway. Others, however, find them deeply satisfying. Similarly, some readers find 1984 too dark and depressing. It paints a picture of the dangers of a totalitarian state, and there are many uncomfortable parallels with our own lives today. However, others think that it's enlightening, and although grim, it is a must-read novel that warns us about the dangers of power and corruption. In this video, we've seen that general vision and viewpoint is the vision of the world offered to us by a text, and how we readers respond to it. We've seen that texts are never all one thing, and the vision and the viewpoint can change and shift over the course of a text. We've also seen that the beginning and the end are really important to monitor for signs of what the vision and the viewpoint are. I hope that you found this video useful, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and feel free to leave a comment, a question, or a suggestion.